I didn't have a chance to email it out to everybody, but I created an action plan to start putting this into overdrive here. It kind of outlines everybody's responsibilities and some discussion topics for tonight. Karen, I was going to get it to you to put into an agenda form, but my week just completely got away from me at work. So that didn't happen, but we will see if I can put some newfound skills to use and drop the file into the chat box. No promises there. Getting pretty handy with Zoom, but as soon as I tell you guys I can do it, it won't happen. So to start with, I know you guys all got my crazy frantic email that I sent out calling everybody to the carpet about how awesome our crew is, and that if needed, we can throw together an event in just a couple of months. And that's where we are sitting right now. After a conversation with Tom, we are shifting gears and going to talk tonight about planning an event in the park and what we can do to pull that off. I know that some of you have already started working on the items that I sent out for you guys to get started with. So I'll give you guys just a quick rundown of what I've been working on, and then we'll do some check-ins, and then we'll work on the discussion topics for tonight. So Aaron, I reached out to you to work, you and Keith to work with Western Displays. We had just finalized our fireworks contract. The fireworks show was reworked to move to the lagoons. Obviously, that's going to look different now, having them in the park. Do you guys have an update? I did get an updated contract today from Western Displays emailed to me, so I'm assuming you guys made some progress there. So do you want to talk about what that looks like? What did you guys work up, one night or two? What type of a show? Is it a show that, and I'm coming to you, of course, with these questions because I'm completely unaware of the answers. Is that coming from my house or you guys? There we go. I'm coming to you with these questions because you guys are going to have these answers. One of the things that we need to discuss is if we all have learned that as soon as we make plans, things change. So is it possible that with the plan that you guys have worked up now, if worst case scenario happens and we have to make a move, is it something that we can go back to the lagoon with the same show? All that good stuff. So why don't you guys give us an update on where you're at with that?
I don't think Keith's on here, but I sent an invite to him. Is he?
Yeah, he's here.
Oh. I'm here.
I'll let him do the talking then.
Oh, thanks. Yes, I got in touch with Western. Yeah, I spoke with Heather in depth about this for two shows, like we talked about originally, for the 3rd and the 4th, and changing the location back to the park. The drop dead, basically, we have to make a decision if we're going to change it, would be June 3rd, and that has to do with permits from the state. We have to have 30 days prior, and that's filing permits with the state. So realistically, June 2nd, and I honestly don't have a calendar in front of me, so I don't know what day of the week that is. If we decide to change locations, we'd have to get all the permits switched around for the wastewater, ponds versus the river. They rewrote the shows for the river. I saw the same email, Janice, that you saw. Unfortunately, my work schedule today did not give me a chance to even look at it yet. I just saw the email come through. And I will look at it tomorrow as I can. They're, in talking with Janice from Western, their philosophy is that they want us to have the best shows that we can. So I'm not going to fault them at all for anything that they're doing. If we end up switching and rewriting again for the other, there may be a cost incurred for switching things around.
Okay. So just a curiosity question, with those changes being made, I know originally our contract included permits for the FAA and all of that stuff. Will those, okay, Keith, you're giving me a funny look. That was my impression, was that we had to have those permits, and Western Displays took care of those. Will those kind of remain in place in case we have to move, or are they canceled and we have to restart that whole process with them?
None of those permits have been filed for yet.
Oh, okay.
And so because of that, until we sign the contract, those permits aren't filed.
Okay.
And didn't mean to give you a funny look. My allergies are just going nuts this afternoon. And I know there's other people that can feel that. The FAA, if we have to, is not a large one. The biggest permit that we have to refile or have to file, and that's with the State Fire Marshal's office, or where we're actually displaying the fireworks at. Try to get that glare out of the sun out of the background there. But that's the biggest one we have to file. And that's the one that requires a minimum of 30-day notice.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions for Keith and Aaron in regards to fireworks? Oh, you guys are gonna be a quiet group on me tonight. Make me do all the talking. No. I've had enough talking today. Okay.
We would not be shooting anything larger than what we shot in the past down in the park, so the ranges would not change down there. I know we're gonna have some extra cleanup on the other side of the river just because we weren't there last year, and we're gonna have some overgrowth that we're gonna have to deal with.
Okay. All righty.
So if you're at the lagoons, you were going to have bigger shells, right?
That was the intent, yeah.
Yeah.
We were gonna have bigger shells, and they go up in the air higher.
Sorry, Keith. I know you were excited about shooting those off.
Yes, I was.
And this decision could change up until June 3rd, is what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so.
And Western would be okay with the change in size of shells at that point, if we had to
Would
switch.
probably be charged a fee at that point, is what I understand from talking with Heather.
Okay, but it's still possible to do.
If we had to change sites, yes.
Thank you.
But the biggest reason for the larger shells is, well, for one, we can do it because the location gives us more space, but it was more to get it higher in the air so that the citizens could see it without having it in front of them like they do at the river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought they started packing the order earlier, so I think I just kind of made the assumption that if we had to change back to lagoons, it would still be the same. It would be the same show. We wouldn't switch to the larger mortars, but that's why you guys do what you do and I don't.
The problem is they won't pack the show until the contract's signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with her in depth about that. And the big problem is with the differences in what we'd be shooting in the park versus what we'd be shooting out the lagoons would be a lot different. And they can't pack the shows and get them ready to go until we make a decision.
Okay, well, hopefully there's some decision making made tonight. I know that right now our main focus is to move to the park. And I think that's the ultimate goal. We just need to iron out some details tonight. So Keith, I'll catch up with you. Why don't you just shoot me an email or text or call me when you're done looking at the contract, And then
Okay.
we'll kind of go over it depending on the outcome of everything tonight.
So, Keith, quick question. Is there any reason not to wait until June 3rd to sign a contract? I mean, if they're saying they could do it either way.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely
they know
sign.
If we sign now.
We're not gonna, yeah, we're not gonna wait that long to sign the contract. We need to get through tonight's meeting just to make sure that everything's gonna line up to be able to make that happen.
No, I get that. I guess my question is there a reason to not wait? Is there,
Yeah.
what's the penalty in waiting? If they can change the show up until June 3rd,
Mhm.
why do they?
We're gonna get charged a fee if they have to resubmit permits and such for a different location.
I understand. So that's why I'm asking, if they can do it, and if we do it June 3rd and they can make it all happen by July 4th, what's the reason to sign it now instead of waiting until we're sure?
There would not be a. Go ahead, Janice.
I heard your question backwards, but I completely agree with that. We'll hold off as long as we can. My understanding was that we needed to sign the contract sooner. And Keith, I know you've been talking with them as well. I thought we had a sooner deadline to sign the contract and then June 3rd to make changes.
That is correct. We need to make the contract signed as soon as possible. If we decide to change locations, we have up until June 3rd to change the location. Part of it is apparently some agreement for not being charged for repacking from last year. I'm not 100% sure all that verbiage. I know we canceled our show last year, and I know per the contract, we could be charged up to, off the top of my head, we could have been charged 25% for restocking fee. That was waived as long as we signed the contract for this year. And that's above my pay grade, to be honest with you. And I'm here to blow stuff up and have fun. So that's kind of where that stuff is at. And yeah, that's where it's at. I will give you guys the best show we can give you and go from there. We can do it at either location.
Cool. Okay. All right. So that's one major hurdle there, is getting through the fireworks issue. So thank you guys for jumping right on that and kind of starting to work with them to get all of that ironed out. Let's see here.
Janice?
Yes.
Do you mind if I just give the group kind of some calculations? Because one of the primary drivers of what's going on here is back in mid-March, the governor changed the guidance on how many people could actually attend outdoor entertainment establishments. I think 350 was the maximum up to that point, but she changed it by risk level. And so just so you know, if we're at the lower risk level, which is, pretty low, we haven't gotten to that level since this started, but you could actually get 60,000 people in the amphitheater camping area and the Riverview frontage park. So she was pretty generous in the amount of people that was allowed there. I don't see that happening getting to the lower, but even if you're at the moderate and you take into account all three of those areas, you're looking at 28,000 and even 14,000 just in Riverview Park itself. Now, if we're at the high risk level at that point, if you take into account all three areas, you're at 16,800. So, that would probably be okay if you're doing a 2-day show, because I'm not sure how many people you get in there, but you would probably be pushing that. But if you're at the extreme level, then you're limited to 50 people. So there's this big difference between being in the high risk level and the extreme level, and it'll be interesting to see. Right now the metric is 200 cases per, I think, 10,000 people, and you know, we were down actually in the moderate risk group, and it looks to me like this with the numbers this week, she's given us a warning we might jump into the high group, you know, in 2 weeks from now, because I think it jumped up to about 140. And so 200 is that magic number. If we're over 200, at least with the way she has things now, she may change that metric too. It may be, you know, 300 or 400 by the time we get to July 4th, who knows? But it would only be if we're in the extreme one that I think we would have, you know, significant issues. If we're in the high level, yeah, probably have to be thinking about some things, but probably can still do it. If you're at the moderate or low level, there's just no issues with at least the number of people. Now, there's a whole bunch of other guidance which I sent to Janice earlier this week, which, you know, she'll probably talk about. But at least as far as the numbers go, as long as we can stay out of that extreme risk on July 4th, you know, should be able to pull it off at the park. So
Great.
All right, well, that's what we're going to bank on, is staying out of that, staying out of those levels so we can pull this off. But I think one important thing we've learned over the past year and a half is always have that contingency plan that you can switch to pretty quickly if necessary. And for us, that contingency plan is going to be very basic: move the fireworks. Everything else cancels, move the fireworks. But we're going to plan forward and ignore that backup plan and pretend like we're not going to need it. So it's there, but we're not going to need it, because if we don't have it, we'll need it. So, all right. The next big issue we need to discuss before we really start making any plans is the park itself. Obviously, we're going to be restricted to controlling the population that enters into the park. Traditionally, I don't think we would necessarily need to. We've had years where we've had 18,000 people down there on the actual 4th of July, which just astounds me that when you throw out that number of 60,000, because I know what 18,000 looks like in the park, and that is crazy. So a couple of things we need to address is logistics of the park. I did have a conversation with, I had a conversation with Kimber, you know, to see what are the odds of being able to deploy CERT. And she said that for the past year, they have kind of taken a step back from hands-on stuff, but she's going to throw it out there and see what they can come up with. She's pretty confident they won't be able to come through with at full capacity like we're used to seeing. So that puts additional stressors on you know, our security levels. Do we need to reach out to private security? Tino, how is that going to affect you guys? In my head, I go back and forth. Do we limit access to the park to 3 locations, 3 entrances, 1 exit? Basically due to staffing. You know, obviously the more entrances and the more exits we have, people will be able to distance a little bit better. However, we need to be realistic and see that we are almost halfway through April, and we are going to put together this event with limited staffing. I checked in with Stacy regarding the gates, and that's not a lot of time for them to pull together staffing for all exits and entrances that we're used to. So what does the park look like? Do we just do north, south, and footbridge? These are the kinds of things that we need to start focusing on. So I'd like to talk about logistically what we want the park to look like. Limiting entrance into the park. We are not going to have the capacity to sit there with clickers and count people coming through. So I feel as though we would need to do some pre-sales with bracelets. No bracelet, no entrance that day. That way we control the numbers. We don't have to worry about counting at the gate. We don't have to worry about collaborating and gathering those numbers every half an hour to make sure that we don't go over capacity. I think that it would afford opportunities to engage local businesses, maybe find some businesses that would step in and help sell the bracelets, which would of course, bring foot traffic through their establishments. These are all things that we need to kind of figure out tonight. So Tino, I'd like to start with you. I was hoping Kimber would be able to get on here and give us an update on where they were with CERT. But one of the things I had asked you in the email that I sent out is, have you had a chance to look into what staffing would look like for you? I know that probably partnering with other agencies is going to be difficult, which is going to raise a cost for private security to come in.
Right. Those proposed numbers aren't too different than what we've had in the past. So our staffing would probably be the same. You're right. We would have to reach out to more private security. And I don't know what they look like at the moment. I was waiting to hear tonight what the decision was before reaching out and then seeing what they had available. Yeah, we need to, if we are expecting to have, I guess it's hard to say now before we know whether we're going to have one night or 2 nights. But I think we need to be prepared to pay for that private security.
Okay, we're definitely looking at 2 nights. So it would be Saturday and Sunday for a couple of reasons. The main one is population control in the park. By offering 2 shows, we can kind of limit our numbers a little bit lower each day and still give, everybody in all of the surrounding communities, our local communities, the opportunity to attend. It's just not going to feel good if we have to turn people away because we just don't have room for them. So 2 nights is definitely what we're looking at. I know that Aaron and Keith have worked up 2 shows. So that's where we're sitting as far as, so we'll be going Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, it'll be a matter of how big our capacity is and what private security is available.
Okay, can you, do you think 2 weeks would give you enough time to start working up some preliminary figures for that, that I can work into the budget?
Yeah, that should be time, plenty of time.
Okay. From now. Okay, so let's talk about the park itself, like what we are going to be capable of pulling off. In the email that I had sent out, I mentioned, Karen, we are going to need a huge call for volunteers, mostly because, well, we're all tired by the time this event comes around.
Right, and Janice, can I just let you know, I don't think I got that email, so.
Oh, okay. I'll send it out to you again. I did get a kickback that you were on vacation or out of the office or something.
Okay.
So surprise, I need you to jump on the volunteer bandwagon and start getting the word out there that we need volunteers, not because we're going to be adding activities, but because we're going to need to pull this together without our normal help that we typically have. So what do you guys feel as though we're capable of pulling off? I did talk with a carnival company, and obviously not to be able to throw something together for this year, but we're going to need something to return, and I want to get in there as best as possible. And they did state that depending on what the guidelines were, that they might be able to put something small together. It's not anything that we're going to count on or bank on or anything for this year, but they at least have our information, and hopefully we can get that together for next year. So what do we offer in the park? We need to be able to bring vendors in, but that comes with its own set, their own set of issues, in the park. And Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, even though it's out in the open, due to the numbers, everybody will need to be masked up. How do you manage keeping everybody masked up and offer food to eat in the park? So when I was talking with Tom, one of the ideas that kind of bounced around was we create a food court area that we provide seating for people to sit down and eat. And in that area, obviously, they can take off their masks to eat. But once they leave that area, obviously they need to mask back up again. That's going to require volunteers to staff that area for us. We will not have the time to do that. Bringing vendors into the park also brings to mind how do we engage our local businesses and be able to promote their business and draw traffic to them. So I threw out a lot of stuff for us to talk about. Things that I want decisions made on tonight is what the park is physically going to look like, how many gates we're going to go with, where they're going to be, how they're going to get staffed, what activities do we want to have. We can bring back the family games that we had out last year and create a game area over where the carnival typically is. What is entertainment going to look like? Thoughts and ideas on that. So Aaron, why don't you kick off with the park? Have you put any thought into the layout of the park as far as when we talked about entrances, exits? How do we get maximum, bang out of a little bit of staff to run them? Can't hear you.
So I put some thought into the park, hoping that maybe the carnival or thinking the carnival wasn't going to be there, and that maybe we could make that little area the food court area. You walk up vendor alley, eat your food, or go into the campground, we'll call it, and have that kind of be the foodie area, and then you can go back to your seats the other, back the other way, I guess. But then I was thinking also that puts a lot of traffic up and down that main road of people walking back and forth. So we'd have to maybe make some sort of a pathway. This way's going this way and this way's going, one-way direction traffic control kind of thing. But that, and then vendor wise, obviously we need to have them as, where we have the power. So it really wouldn't change much there. Gate wise, I like the idea of the 3 or 4 gates. I don't really want 4 gates because it's a lot more staff, but obviously if we didn't utilize Osprey, the roundabout would be kind of a bummer. So my thoughts were Osprey Lane, the footbridge, and C Street, and just keep it like a hometown day, and allow and just have the C Street, not the C Street and B Street gates, and then Osprey. And those are kind of my big thoughts. I don't know, entertainment wise, I don't see where there anything major change there, other than we probably may not be able to have as big of concerts. Porta potties, I talked to Tony. He says he's got tons of them because nobody has them out right now. And the rest of the stuff, I'd have to call Hollywood Lights and find out what kind of power package I could come up with for the generator if we need it, if we get big enough vendors, that kind of thing. So,
Hey, Aaron,
yeah.
would there be a problem with the parking and using the bridge coming over Ash Creek and eliminating that as an entrance?
That's a pretty good parking space area in that area over there, and it really helps alleviate foot traffic down the bridge, out in the road.
So that would entail another entrance into the park, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would just, well, that's one of the footbridge is one of the entrances I was thinking of. So Footbridge, Osprey, and C Street.
Okay, I think I understand.
IC Street, where are you thinking you're putting it? Like,
Kind of like Alex does with the summer series. You know, I have the one entranceway when there was food vendors there, just basically closing off C Street, making the street at the brew and the Veterans Memorial the entrance, the main entrance, and then have an Osprey entrance.
And you need to make sure that you provide for a handicap access as well, like we did
yeah,
last time.
Yep. I'd get a ramp and whatnot.
so people would be able to walk down Main Street from, say, 7 Star, in front of 7 Star. They'd be able to walk right down Main Street and go in the park. They wouldn't. It wouldn't be closed off there with a gate, like if that gate were there. Correct.
Yeah. Well, so we would still have to run the fencing all the way across. I'm not sure I'm following what you're talking about.
So if the fencing's blocking Main Street, how are people going to get to that gate?
Oh no, it wouldn't be blocking Main Street. My idea is that the parade may not happen, I guess is how I looked at it. And so I was keeping it that the road would not be closed in my little picture.
So how are you stacking up the people trying to get in that gate and not putting them out in the road?
I know. Yeah, that was the other part of it. Yeah, was if the road's not closed, if the parade doesn't, because we've always used the parade permit to close the road. So if I don't have a parade, then I don't have a permit to close the road per se. So
Well, let me tell you, Rotary is still moving forward as if they're going to have a parade. So
that's a good thing. So
We've been requesting our own ODOT permit separate from the parade.
we have, okay, that's probably something we really need to actually do more than just rely on the parade's permit. But yes, if the road were to be closed and we were to just use C Street as a main entrance, then yeah, we could run the fence down like we do on a normal hometown pride day and just leave the road open to where people can funnel down the road and spill into the road for the lines and whatnot.
To put our bollards up still, but the
Yeah.
road would be passable to pedestrians.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be an issue. I'm thinking of all those people that park along the Footbridge. How are
Yeah.
they going to get in? That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
how are they going to get in? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I think it would be the same as a hometown pride where we have the fencing going down the sidewalk and then just have that one entrance to, only because that cuts back on probably 20 people that we need to man that gate, the extra B Street gate. So, and the C Street gate is capable of having, I believe if I did it right, we could do 4 lanes to get people in on that C Street gate. So we should be able to move some people in, just logistics is going to be the day of kind of thing.
You mean like shoulder to shoulder, right?
Would it be?
Yeah, it's going to be tight. So, but I really think the Osprey gate, I don't know how exactly to get people down there, or say, hey, if you park on this end of town, go down Osprey Lane, because that one, we have so much room down there that we could expand, even though we're living down sidewalks on both sides of the street, large parking areas that could be, filled with people and stuff. So,
And somehow you'll be able to gate off in front of the hotel so you avoid people trying to get in, like from the river trail and everything.
yeah, that's another logistics that we're going to have to remember, and that's even more so for all 4th of Julys beyond COVID 4th of July. It's going to be a necessity to be able to fence off that upper part of the new Indy Landing Park with temporary fencing in order to keep people from just inviting themselves in.
Yeah, Aaron, I think we're going to need to think about that and probably talk to where they're going to be at too, because I think by the 4th of July, their construction fence is going to be gone there.
Yeah.
And, those numbers I gave you were, for some of those risk levels, we would have to have that area open. in order to meet the count numbers for what we expect. So, so we probably should think about how we want to utilize that area, or if we want to utilize it, how we can prevent people from coming in, because originally the apartments were going to put a fence all the way along the backside there, and they've changed that plan. So I think there's going to be quite a few opportunities for people to just wander in there if we don't have something along there. So
sure. One thing, we've always had really good relationship with Gemco Fence, and they've donated a lot of fencing to us, like 1,000 feet at times. But we're going to need probably 1,500 to 1,800 feet to be able to accommodate that whole piece. So it might be worth us buying some here and there and having it for other events as well, for movie events or whatever. We have the low profile fencing, but the 6 foot tall stuff is more 6 foot by 8 foot.
yeah, and I know that last time we had the big fireworks display, it was pretty inconvenient to have it blocked off there at City Hall when people were trying to get in and out and watch fireworks from that area.
Yeah,
a lot of people walked down and climbed over the fence and did all.
Yeah, yeah. That was the intention would be to add an additional gate there. That would be a kind of like a footbridge gate, just 1 or 2 people there and a cert person, because it would be low flow going through there, hopefully, unless it became a big thing, and then we'd have to accommodate for that. The intention was to do that. We just didn't end up with enough people to man that gate at our last event that we had, the last good event we had. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you need it except for when the fireworks, are going on. You probably don't need it throughout the entire day, but
yeah.
At the same time, it gives people another opportunity to park somewhere else to walk in. So
for sure, yeah, for sure.
So here's my concern with not shutting down the road. We've been in this position before where we used the north entrance without shutting down the road, and it was horrible. Managing traffic there. One, it was a safety concern because people, even though the road wasn't shut down, people cut their lines right through the road and cars weren't able to drive by, and it was a traffic mess. If we have a north entrance, it has to be a north entrance with that portion of the road shut down.
Yeah, that's why I was going with just the C Street like we normally do on a hometown pride day. But I really think that both those 2 gates are very, very active. They're very busy all day long. So it's going to be a challenge. So,
well, I think that even, if we do utilize north and south, even though it can accommodate, if we can't staff having 4 lanes open, then, obviously we don't have them. It'll just mean, jamming up a line a little bit. But a big time saver at the gates is going to be the fact that they have to have a bracelet to come in. That is a hard decision that I've already made. No bracelet, no entrance. We will get the word out there, and we will have plenty of opportunities for people to purchase these bracelets. So we're not going to have to deal with any money at the gates. We're just gonna have to deal with bag checks. So it should make funneling through the gate a lot faster.
Yeah. I wonder if selling the tickets or selling the bracelets outside of the gate, like in the line, would be money. That would be the money collection part of the gates would be kind of difficult. But other than that, I think that's probably going to be a good idea. Have a line runner.
Yeah, I did put, Karen, I emailed you that document I was working on. I'm not able to add a file in here. I think maybe it's because I'm not the host. I don't know if it's something that you can throw up in there for everybody to look at, but I did add in there to have a couple of stations, if there are bracelets left, to have stations up the way, maybe in the library parking lot and for the south side. On the north side, kind of up towards B Street a little bit, where we're not going to impede the lines, where people can purchase bracelets until they're sold out, if there's any left available from the pre-sales. That way it avoids, and who knows, maybe it's something that ends up working so well that we just, bye, Tom, thank you. Maybe it's something that works so well that we stick with it in the future. You never know. We'll see how it works out, but definitely did incorporate, if we have bracelets left, we will have some pre-sale or some tables to purchase them from.
Maybe the T intersection's a good wide spot, would be feasible to get some sales going on there ahead of the actual entrance gate. So
Okay. I did like your thought of utilizing the carnival area for the eating area.
Yeah, there might be some more thought that needs to go into that to make things flow better, but I thought that was a large enough space, and it's not really, you can't really see, the trees are kind of in the way, although the ice did take down some of them. So, but yeah, I just kind of thought maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to use that as the food court and let everybody sit.
Because yeah, generally that area is pretty much a limited entry and in. I mean, it's not like it's real already kind of blocked off. There's only basically one way in and out.
Yeah. Just from the frontage of the park is only the way in and way out. So, but
and Janice, I found the problem. Your email went to my junk folder. So
well, now I know how I rate. I think my only hang up with that thought is we need to, whatever food vendors we end up having down there, we're going to need to space them out. They're obviously going to come with a line. So we are not going to look at a traditional layout. We can't handle a traditional layout. We're going to have to get a little bit creative with that. And I do believe utilizing C Street for some food trucks like we traditionally do would be a good idea. I probably wouldn't buy food from the food trucks at C Street and walk all the way down into a food area, all the way on the other side of the park.
No. So we would need to maybe designate two areas of food areas.
That means twice the staffing, and I don't think we'll have that.
That's true. Yeah. So now you put a kink in my roll here. Although we do have that big area behind the big trees that generally stays open.
We call it the black hole.
The black hole, yes, exactly. Where the generator runs, nobody wants to sit there for too long. No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we could possibly utilize that from behind the stage, up to the trees, and make that the food court, come here and eat area, which would in turn then open up the other end of the park for seating as well if people want to sit back that way. I would thought if there was no carnival, maybe we could do some sort of bounce house situation in that area as well. But then my food court thing kind of took that out of play. Yeah, again, I'm just kind of bouncing around with every possible idea that I can come up with to make things.
Bounce house sounds very non-COVID to me.
I know.
The whole thing, I'll be honest, the whole thing is very non-COVID to me. We aren't even open at City Hall like for full hours yet. And we're talking about jamming 11,000 people in the park. I'm not sure that, I mean, so I feel like we've jumped past the decision point that we need to at least acknowledge.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my thought with the bounce house was, hang on, kids, we got to go sanitize, and then the kids go back in. But I'm just trying to throw ideas out there to make it somewhat of a successful event.
Well, so here's the thing. No matter how big, no matter how small it is, fireworks is going to make it a success.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I think that what I'm more focused on is finding that balance. Because trust me, my head went there too, and then I thought, no, we can't do that. It's not time for that yet. I'm struggling already with coming to terms with having that many people in the park, and being, I've always promoted social responsibility within our group. So just kind of falling in line with, following the conversation Tom and I had, this is the direction we're going to go. So we just need to keep it as socially responsible as we can. And that's kind of where my head went to We definitely have to have a food area, and I agree with you, Aaron. I think that that black hole area it would be a common area. We would be able to utilize the part. We're not going to be able to do vendors on both sides of the thoroughfare that we do down there. So I want to put them on the grass side where the lines can have the ability to move into the park, and then have that eating area in there. And we are not going to do the family tent this year. One, staffing aside, is going to be hard to pull off, but two, I think that's too much. That's putting too much on somebody to clean up after every family leaves, and all that stuff. So I think bringing back those games that we used last year at the block parties is going to, just give some good family fun in a way that's easy to manage without a whole lot of work. But again, we're going to have to rely on volunteers to be there to, help staff that and help keep that going, because we're already, at max capacity with what we do during the event. So a lot of what happens, we are going to need to rely on the community. The community needs this, they want this. So it's time for people to step up and help out with it. So
what you guys need to do with the communications plan and the safety plan, I think the primary focus of that is managing the community's expectations. They have to know what's going to be available. They have to know what's not going to be available, and we're just going to have to live within those guidelines. I can also use the communications plan to do a call out for volunteers, and exactly in the way that you stated it. Time to pony up. If this is what you want, you need to be there to help us pull this off. We can't do it ourselves. I can also do an info packet for the businesses that Vicki or Ida, can get out to the businesses so that they know what the expectations are. And, I don't know what their capacity is right now, because I know a lot of the businesses are hurting, but this is a chance for them to maybe at least have a killer weekend, if nothing else. So it's going to be on them to try to be creative and figure out, how to make the most out of this. I'm hoping, I hear what the chief's saying. It sounds scary. It sounds like we're doing really some crazy stuff here, but and the whole part about masking up really worries me, because I hate to put a volunteer in a position to tell some, big 6'4" guy weighs 600 pounds, you got to put your mask back on, because that's not going to be pretty. And volunteers are going to be concerned about that. They're going to be really worried about whether or not they're going to be told to police up folks, and it's not going to work out. So we got to figure out ways to make this easy for the volunteers too. Their primary responsibility ought to be making sure that the games are sanitized, making sure people are moving, and staying apart. But we're going to have a lot of challenges. And I think the more we can put into the communications plan and then the safety plan, it's going to help, but it's only as good as people pay attention to it.
True.
I want to say that I have full faith in our community that, everybody's going to comply and be out there and have positive spirits and have a good time. But,
you need to come back to reality, I'm afraid.
That's why I said I would like to say that, but
I go the other way.
Sleep or too much work is getting to Janice.
It's Independence on Independence Days. How dare you tell me I need to wear a mask because this whole thing's a hoax?
Yeah. And we have to market it that way. We have to market it a way that we put the responsibility on the people. But we're going to have challenges big time. It's that's my biggest concern is putting volunteers in harm's way.
Absolutely. And I mean, what's your population target? What are you hoping to keep I heard those numbers from Mr. Pessimir, and I hope those aren't our target numbers. No. I hope it's like half of that, or I don't know, but.
To be honest with you, like I said, I about had a heart attack when I heard those numbers. Okay, so most of us have been doing this for quite a few years, maybe a lot longer than quite a few years. We know what 18,000 people in the park looks like. We know from previous experience that opening up those alternate areas, down the walking path, down that footpath down there, Okay, we did that. Nobody goes over there, right? My target number is less than 10,000, way less than 10,000, to be honest with you. I think because it's just, I don't think it's realistic. It's not realistic to put that responsibility on us to do a crowd larger than that. I'm not willing to take on that responsibility.
Yes.
And
Good.
that's the number in my head. But if you guys feel otherwise, this is what we're here for, to make these decisions. If we need to limit it less, then let's make that decision. But that's kind of where my head was at.
Yeah, I feel like the responsible number is at the most 10,000. I think,
Yeah.
8 would be nice. We've been there on an 8,000 night, and
Mhm.
it feels more socially distant and more like responsible. And with a straight face, I could probably say this step was taken because it could be done safely, right? For sure, 13, 14, 15, you just couldn't do it and still feel like you were being responsible for the,
Yeah, I mean, let's be real here, right? We are asking people to come into the park, and I know the idea there is that if everybody's masked up, you don't, and because you're outside, you don't have to maintain that distance. But we're still going to ask them to maintain some sort of a distance, right? Where does everybody go to watch the fireworks? 2 spots in that park. They go into the parking lot and they go into the amphitheater.
Yep.
So really, while I get the square footage of the area that we have to work with, that is not square footage for viewing fireworks. That's square footage to walk around for the day. That's square footage to go walk up and down the footpath and enjoy the river. But people don't set up shop there to watch the fireworks. And
No,
I think
we've only used the footpath for 1 year. Well, technically, maybe kind of 2 years.
2.
But I do believe, I guess I would hope that people would see it as a space to utilize for social distancing, to help keep the space between families or groups or whatever. But again, there's always hope.
Yeah.
There's benches there. Maybe they'll sit on the benches.
Yeah, and I, like Shannon was saying, how we get this information out is really going, I think, will lead how the event plays out. I think by putting that call out to the community to, hey, be nice, play by the rules, maybe we won't have as many problems. Vicki?
Thank you, first of all, for letting me come to this meeting. And I'm on the board of IDA, so I'm here to see how IDA can support and help and be a conduit of communications. I know that the business community has made some inquiries wanting to know if it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, the dates, that kind of thing. And they're real interested in doing things within their businesses for food specials or specials for, purchases, that kind of thing. Patios opened up to alleviate some of the stress of having, too much food in the park. So the other thing is we're working on trying to put out newsletter with information. So we'd also like to help be that conduit of information for plans and letting people know about the masking and the activities and that kind of thing. So I'm here mostly to listen, but also to offer the support of IDA for all of this, and we really want to be involved.
That's great.
Awesome. Thank you. I know Shannon's kind of being our my little go-between there, so I'll have you just kind of stay in contact with Shannon there.
Thanks.
Okay, what else do we need to address in the park? What other decisions need to be made? I really want to nail down. So tell me your thinking, Aaron, for why you want that 4th gate.
I was actually really only wanting 3 gates.
Well, you're the one that brought up the 4th.
I don't know if I did or not.
I think that was Tom.
Yeah.
I thought that was you, Aaron.
No, my gates are the footbridge Osprey, and C Street. Those are the three that I really want to see. The D Street one, I in all honesty, I could care not to do that one every year, but it's definitely helpful. So just, it's too close to the traffic for me. So.
Aaron, with your fencing on the new area that we opened last year, that now will have apartment dwellers living in it.
Yeah.
The balconies are a concern that I have there for where you're going to put that fence, things coming off the balcony into our fenced area. So I don't know what your plan is there for fencing, but that's actually going to be pretty tricky to do.
Yeah, my idea for the fencing was basically to run just basically our property line there. There's I think it's a 12-foot wide path at the very top of the park, and just running the fencing right down the very west edge of that 12-foot path, which would put the apartment buildings are still another, I believe, at least 12 to 15 feet back from that path, if I remember. I have to double check it, but I think we'll be okay. I don't think anybody could go over from the balcony. I think it'd be far enough.
I was more concerned with stuff coming off.
Stuff flying, yes.
I wasn't worried about people jumping your fence.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was kind of thinking of. With that 12-foot path, hopefully they can not reach that far. Hopefully they don't have very strong arms.
All right.
Dennis, what are we looking at, or what kind of hours are we considering? How long are our days going to be for both our volunteers?
That's a good question. We were talking 24 hours, 2 days straight.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Round the clock.
Right? See, Nathan agrees it's party time, right? So the 4th is going to really be the tricky day if the parade, with the parade going, right? So the 4th traditionally, what do we say? 2 to midnight is like for the actual, like we put the gates up earlier. So we put those temporary gates up at north and south to, leave the road open for the parade. So realistically, I think we start really manning the gates at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then with it being a fireworks night, it usually goes until midnight or so.
We normally move the C Street gate down into Main Street around 4, because that gives about an hour of set time before people really start flooding in and really start coming in droves. So if anything, my thought would be from 4 to 11,
on the 4th.
On the 4th, yeah. Yeah.
Well, realistically, though, as soon as the parade's over, people are going to start coming into the park, not gate-wise, but true. Hours that we're going to have the park open. Because this year, the difference will be, in the past, people could come down into the park before the gates were officially opened, right? This year, we can't have that. We have to control the population. So this year, before Saturday hits, Aaron, that park has to be completely sealed off.
Yeah.
The only people coming and going are going to be the vendors, and obviously those of us that are going to be down there staffing it. We can't have it open until 10 o'clock in the morning. So it's just a matter of when we want to open the gates to allow people in on Saturday. Sunday obviously is a little bit different, but if having food down there, whether it's the businesses that are close to the park or food trucks that come in, we're going to need to be able to offer lunch service. So a minimum of 11 o'clock in the morning, if not earlier. But
well, if the parade, knock on wood, if the parade goes through, people will be down there at 8 to set up for the parade. So we'll have to have somebody standing at the gate saying, hey, you can't come in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I know there's a bathroom there, but you can't come in. So
yeah. So okay, so I don't feel like we answered your question concretely there, Tino.
Yeah. So hours wise is
Yeah, let's go ahead and set that time. What do you guys want to see for Saturday? Do we want to, open the gate at 10 o'clock in the morning? I kind of feel like that's a little bit early. That makes for a long day, but I really don't want to go any later than 11 so that the businesses and the vendors that we have down there, can take advantage of the lunch and dinner crowd.
What's the draw? Is there music and stuff? What's going
Right.
on?
What is there going to be to do?
Yeah, well, we'll let Nathan chime in on the music part. Really, the only really activities that are going to be happening down there are going to be just the family games that we have set up and people to just come down and enjoy some food. We are not going to do the watermelon eating contest. We will be doing the duck derby, but I mean, that takes up about a half hour, 45 minutes of people's day. So
Or 4 hours.
not if you're spectating.
Some people's days. Oh.
Nathan, have you had any chance to put any thought into what that's going to look like on your end?
Are you kidding? I feel like I've had 2 years to plan for this. Changing back to the park and a possible live entertainment model with a constricted budget. Like I have some questions. What is our budget for bands? Do we want to try to do an all-day music thing, or would we better be served by having big long playlist breaks, so we have a leisurely changeover and easily set up the next live band or live entertainment thing? Do we space it out a little bit but kill the time by sorry. Anyway, we've got that giant PA system that sounds incredible. If we just play music through that, we're gonna get a long ways towards creating a fun day. People are there to hang out with their families anyway. Obviously, people want some visual too. They're gonna get bored staring at the stage where nothing's going on. So to stretch our dollar, budgeting for this thing, I guess I need y'all's help figuring out kind of what you want the vibe to be. I know the last time we were planning for it, we're going to do sort of a throwback thing. And now it's 2 days. I kind of think just variety both days. Somebody killer to play the national anthem before the fireworks, whether that is somebody we find locally or somebody that I know that's not too far away. Anyway, I'm down to hear all y'all's input with it, and I'm down to book as many acts as we need to. The budget is going to really determine for me, how I kind of structure this, and whether I go for a traditional headliner thing or, try to throw some sort of karaoke contest into the mix, or who knows,
So let me ask you this: what could you do with $1,000 budget
for both days?
Mm-hmm.
So split or 1,000 each?
Total, 1,000 total.
Oh, we'd be cultivating local talent and relying on a greatest hits playlist that'll keep everybody moving.
Okay, what about 3,000 for both days? Total.
Right. So 3,000 total. There's a couple ways we could look at it. We could top load it and try to have one, really kick-ass band play each night and headline it with maybe one opener, and then playlist during the day, or local talent showcases during the day. Which I want to have some component of that anyway, because I've gotten performers in town, and I think that'd be a great way to start the day where it's not so ruckus. You can listen to a few people here and there, but kind of space it out. So you're not just sitting there for 2 hours listening to nothing but guitar players and singers. You get some beats involved. You know what I'm saying? $1,500 would get us probably a couple decent headlining bands that we could fill with local openers, which would probably be the right openers. That gives us like that's gonna kill with changeover and everything, close to 4 hours. That budget. And then the rest would be, share your talents with the community. Show us what you got, sort of.
I don't necessarily, think that's a terrible idea. I think that's great.
No,
we've talked a lot about going back to local,
I love that idea, warts and all. I think it's almost more entertaining to see really honest community folks getting up there and strutting their stuff than it is to see something that's really just kind of created to be a moneymaker cover band to appeal to a wide audience. While I agree that's an amazing craft and people that do it well, like it works, and it's fun to watch too. We don't have a budget for that.
I've enjoyed some of the bands that have been up there recently at the top of the amphitheater under the tent. They've
Thanks.
They've done well.
Yeah, we're trying to get folks that jazz band. I actually I thought they were very highly skilled, and I kind of put a little birdie in their ear that if they could back up, our best 20 local singers, and our best 20 local singers could do a couple songs each.
Yeah.
That's a bit of music, and we have them fill in some blanks. That's a fun day. So, I put those guys in the Rolodex.
Yeah, and then your idea with Dave. I know
Dave Upton, he could play for 4 hours on his own, and he'll do it for free.
Yeah, exactly. Just
I have my 2 cents in here.
So, but I'm gonna go down next Saturday and listen to Dave play on his piano. So
he's a week from this Saturday.
Yeah.
I think I might be down there this Saturday because I haven't been able to fill that gap. It's the only one. We've got Savannah Partridge to round things out the following week, the 24th. So
good.
You might see me down there or some of my students this week. We'll see.
So Janice, how
I
about
can
we
add my
put
2
it
cents in there. Many years ago, when the amphitheater, or prior to the amphitheater was actually built, we were trying to keep it as a venue for local entertainment and local bands and such. And I'm glad to seeing it go back to that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely time to move back to that.
Yeah, one of the things I'm trying to cultivate this summer, and we kind of lost last summer to it a little bit just because we didn't even know what we were going to be able to do. And then we did put some, small amphitheater local talent shows together. But this year I really want to try to get a community open mic variety show going. So it might not affect this year's 4th show because we won't really have a long enough lead to do it, but that's what I'm hoping. I put a proposal in to the city to do kind of a Wednesday thing like we did last year to try to cultivate local talent, get people to show up and do like their local talent thing, whether that's dance, comedy, family friendly, of course, music, whatever it may be. But if we could start building that sort of performer network and people have an expectation, something they can prepare for every year, and they know they're going to be featured on the 4th of July at the main stage, but they can practice at the open mic variety show. I think that's going to prime the pump in the future to really have a local focus for some of these events. And I think that'll be a fun thing to get going. So if y'all have any ideas, in that respect, or have some advice for me, I'm open to criticism and advice equally. So let me know what you think.
I like it.
So Janice, how about we open at noon on Saturday? Is that too late? Trying to shave down those hours a little bit.
Yeah.
Or 2 o'clock.
2 on Saturday, hometown pride, 2 o'clock.
Well, you gotta sell vendor. The vendor's got to sell something to want to be there. So.
Yeah, that's the other issues. Vendors
Yeah.
we got to talk about too.
I definitely get that, but remember, if we're going to rely on volunteers who typically aren't volunteers, for example, not part of a CERT team, not part of other maybe volunteer groups, are we looking at like 4-hour blocks? Because that's definitely going to increase the number of volunteers we're going to need. If anybody's going to be around for lengthier periods of time, like many of us are, a 10, 12-hour day, we're going to be wearing masks for the first time outside in the heat. As it is, it's a long shift. So definitely some health consideration as well.
So here's where my thought process kind of went to, while Nathan was talking was, traditionally we kick off the night before with a movie. If we forego that movie, there's no need. I don't feel the need to, if we start with the movie, then the vendors are going to be set up to sell that night. And then the next day they would have a completely dead day if we don't start until later in the day. If we forego the movie, we could potentially look at opening gates at 3 or 4 on Saturday. And to be honest with you, to me, that sounds a lot better than what we would traditionally do in the past. If we open later on Saturday, then the vendors can spend the day Saturday getting set up versus coming out the day before, or actually 2 days before, to set up for the movie and for that day, and then have a slow Saturday, because we're not going to have the carnival to draw the people. We're not going to have a lot of stuff. But if we just focus on a concentrated show, my concern is if we ask these vendors to come in and be there, we need to be able to be open for them to capitalize on that. But if we do it that way, if we just open later, say at 4 o'clock, and just do dinner
I love it. Yes.
on a Saturday, and then Sunday morning is taken up with the parade, we would again just be Sunday afternoon into the evening to the nighttime.
I like it.
And
Karen?
the church is still planning on church services too, so we would have that Sunday morning.
Well, hang on here. I'm curious to see how church services, because to be honest with you, I'm never afforded the opportunity to be around when church services are happening. How does the 4th, being on a Sunday, impact church services? The parade's going on, the park is closed down. Like, what does that look like? And I don't know if any of you guys had the opportunity to be around for that, but I've never been able to be around to see how that works on the 4th, because we're just running around like crazy.
If it's happened, it's probably only happened once, where we had
Yeah.
on the 4th of July that was a Sunday. And I don't recall it myself, because I'm thinking of who was doing it back then, and they would have been involved in the parade and the pancake feed and all of that stuff as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. So I'll reach out to the Grove. Typically, they're the ones that kind of put it together now. I'll reach out to them and see, what their plans are, what their intentions are. I know that Vidal has voiced that they are going to be doing church services, but we need to see what that's going to look like.
I think they would have to patrol their own gate, keep their own. Obviously, they won't have numbers like we would, but volunteer wise, I don't think our volunteers are going to be able to accommodate them during their church service, because we'll be doing everything else.
But logistically, you have to think about what that street looks like. It's packed with people.
Yeah.
You're going to have volunteers there either way to keep people from coming to the park if it's closed.
Yeah.
True. Yep. I didn't think of that.
Okay. I'll follow up with them on that. Vicky?
Push the wrong button. So if you're opening a little bit later on Saturday, then that would allow local food businesses to promote their specials for lunches and food on their patios and that kind of thing. So that might be a positive thing for them to be able to draw people into their businesses. So just food for thought.
Okay.
No pun intended.
If I may throw out one concern I've heard battered around by local businesses is the 4th of July. Like the focus is really down at the amphitheater. A lot of local businesses are dead during the day there. And we are bringing vendors to the party, but I wonder if this year is probably not the year, but maybe for a future possibility, what if we had, a local cart that sold everybody downtown specialty food or whatever.
The very first year I was here, I think, it seemed that before the parade, they had some kind of street sidewalk sale kind of thing.
Mhm.
Am I wrong in that, or did I remember that correctly?
No, we've actually every year encouraged businesses to set up, what we have labeled just a sidewalk shop. Ultimately, our commission has the ability to kind of grant people permission to do things within the city. It's been something that we looked into before. Back when I used to work with IDA, I encouraged the businesses to showcase their business, whether it's out on the sidewalk. The caveat to that is they have to be able to maintain, still obviously area for people to walk back and forth by. But we've always encouraged the local businesses to set up outside. I don't see it happen very often. I know that what's that?
So that I haven't seen that either. So that is an okay thing that I can go back to IDA and say that's within the parameter of planning and that's a good thing
Absolutely.
too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It depends on where you are a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Right.
Very
right.
true.
Depending.
Very, very true.
I had the first year I was open, or maybe it was slightly before I even opened up shop. I had a small table out in front of my store and made sure there was still ADA clearance between all obstacles and things. And I got a lot of, brief engagement and stuff, but most people were in a rush to get their spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people are tearing through downtown in a hurry to get to their spot. And then they're not walking back, several blocks once they get their spot to look outside the venue for something to eat or do. They're really just, they're in the zone. So one thing I think that might be able to be improved upon, and I don't know how, I don't have the answer, but maybe there's a way to bring the marketing of our Main Street businesses and citywide local businesses inside out.
So I will tell you, quite a few years ago, I was my goal was to incorporate and promote our local businesses. And I used to go to the IDA meetings. In the morning, really worked on relationships with the businesses. One of the things that I had proposed to IDA that the commission had agreed that we would do is, you heard us talk earlier about this black hole area that we have in the park, right? Nobody sits behind those big trees. I call it the black hole because at night, right before the fireworks goes off, you can see everybody's cell phone lights sitting around in the park. And then there's this huge black area with not a light there because nobody sits there because you can't see the fireworks. I wanted to utilize that space. And so I had reached out to businesses and offered, let's have this area here set up. We had the tent for it. And so our vendors that come in have to pay their vendor fees. But if you're a business in town, if you're a business in our community, come out and showcase your business. Take this tent area with tables set up for a 4-hour block, 6-hour block, whatever we had agreed upon, and showcase your business with no vendor fees. Show us what your business is, talk about your business, offer services, whatever the case may be. And I worked on that for 2 years, but never had one business take part in it. We've really been passionate about incorporating our businesses, probably more so now than in the past, but that's an opportunity that we could always revisit again. It just takes participation of businesses.
I'd be happy to take that message back to IDA and see what we can do to promote that. I think that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Absolutely. Okay. So I feel like we had some muddled agreements there on hours. So let's nail that down. I like what Vicky was saying, that I think the consensus is coming in on Saturday, 4:00. Aaron, do you want to, I have to strategize with your time. Do you want to kick off the event with the duck derby? That way it's done, it's over with, and you can get back across the way.
Stupid mute button. Yes, it's a good idea. I think that's very good. Very well. Yeah.
Okay, so let's, Saturday, we'll shoot for 4 to roughly midnight. And then Sunday, well, okay, I say midnight because people are still leaving the park then.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a midnight. I see 10:45, 11, and people will be gone somewhere.
Unless
Turn the lights on, shoo them
Nathan's
all
got
out.
music going again, and then
Yeah, you turn the music on and shut the lights off, people leave.
I thought if we turned them on, they would leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll kick off at 4, and Sunday. Sunday's always hard to tell based on the parade. Really, the parade kind of dictates when we open up the park. But with all those, with everybody down there, I'm looking at probably roughly 2:00. And like I said, it really just depends on the parade, what the parade looks like, how long the parade goes for. So we'll have to make sure that we're a little bit adaptable to that. If the parade doesn't take that long, maybe we just tell people they have to wait, go visit the local restaurants there, get something to eat, and then come back, so, okay. All right.
to clarify,
And we
Aaron,
haven't,
when you want the road closed.
What's that?
Aaron, can you clarify when you want the road closed?
Which road?
Main Street.
Are we? So we're gonna close it on the 4th only, right?
Well, are we? Well, I'm clarifying.
No, it really,
Yeah.
it needs to be the 3rd and the 4th because of that North Street entrance. I don't want to have an entrance
true.
there if that street's closed.
Yeah, because normally hometown pride, we don't close the road.
Right.
And it's always an issue.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, I would have to. I have to think about that. Probably, if we're gonna close the, if we're gonna open the gates to people coming in at 4, we would need to close the road by 3, easily, just to have enough time for people to, because I know they'll gather before they can get in. So yeah, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometime in that frame, would be, the road would need to be closed on the 3rd Saturday. And then obviously when 11 o'clock is usually when we do it for the parade anyhow. So.
Do you think you could reconfigure C Street in front of the brew to, my concern is more the people waiting to get in.
Yeah.
Getting out into the roadway and that becoming a real hazard. Do you think you could reconfigure all of that in front of the brew in C Street to be, stack them up and do it safely and leave the road open?
Yeah, it would be how vendors on C Street play out. If vendors on C Street end up being right, all the way up C Street, it would be a little more challenging to rework the gate entrance. But if vendors didn't come all the way up, we can push the gate farther down into C Street and allow for some cushion there.
Because to be clear, you don't want the north gate. I keep hearing Janice say, I want the road closed because of the north gate, but you don't even want the north gate. You want that all closed off, right?
Yeah, yep. I want that all closed off, but obviously traffic would stop at B Street and do our loop through. So if we
then the road's closed.
Yeah, well, yeah, if we didn't close the road, then that C Street pushdown would be better. Would be
Okay.
what we need to do. I don't know, we've never closed the road twice. So that's new on me. I'll have to think of that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of things we're doing for our first time. So this
Yeah.
year's the year to figure that out.
Yep. Unless we say, sorry, there is no gate at C Street, you need to use Osprey. There's no through
Right.
traffic at that point, but I don't see that happening.
No, because all the people that have to park in downtown, that's all.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, yeah.
Doesn't work.
Use Footbridge or Osprey, sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't, yeah. Sorry, Ida.
Yeah.
Karen, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just waiting for the topic to be over, but and I because I'm just assuming we have not heard anything and that there will not be a mini marathon.
So I have, I've been talking with Jennifer over at Anytime. It sounds like for her, she is going to step away from it for this year. But Terry still plans on, is it dinner time, Aaron? Like, what do we got going on over there? We all see that.
Mac and cheese.
Nice. So from my understanding, according to Jennifer, Terry is going to be moving forward on it. Crystal at Curves has offered to step in this year if Terry needs help, the help that he would be lacking from Jennifer. I haven't heard from Terry himself, but I will reach out to him. Couple of things that we had talked about early on was just really depending on where we were. If the road's not going to be closed for a parade, then the traditional route would not be used, and they would need to adjust to maybe incorporating a fun run that goes down into the sports park area and kind of utilizes that area over there.
Trails.
And stuff. So they're definitely working on it. I just don't have definitive plans yet.
Can we revisit the expectations in regards to the mask enforcement?
So yes, actually it was a topic I was trying to avoid. So my feedback to Tom is my experience has been, my question to him was, let's talk about mask enforcement. What does that look like? Because I know law enforcement is not going to step in, and at least my understanding is, I mean, the ones I work with don't step in and do any mask enforcement. So what does that look like for us? And he said, nope, you're right. They're not going to. So that kind of puts it off on us as a commission. And that's just a decision that we're going to need to make. What is that going to look like? How is that going to be handled? And to be honest with you, I don't have that answer right now. It's not something that I personally want to get in the middle of. Unfortunately, Nathan?
Pray for heat. Pray for heat. That's all we can do. Because if we're going to try to tell people the rules on the 4th of July in America, you're just
so the irony is not lost on you, right?
No, you can't put that cat back in the bag. You know, people have been cooped up for a year with this stuff. You know, sharing whatever views they share on the matter, whether they're afraid of it, don't believe in it, want to wear a mask outside or not. We're gonna get all stripes, right? What can we really do about it? It's not a law. It was never made a law to demand wearing a mask. So, you know, our officer it's kind of I guess to protect the city from liability. You know, you're kind of signing a COVID waiver here by coming to this thing because certain people might not wear masks and we can't really legally enforce it.
You are absolutely correct. And therein lies the issue. And
yeah. Another wrinkle to that though is too, you're going to have citizens arrested. know?
Hey,
Yeah.
Janice. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Shannon, could you go again?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have cases of citizen arrest, you know, we're gonna have cases of citizens taking this into their own hands and saying, you know, don't stand next to my daughter without a mask on, and that's gonna escalate in some instances, and we're gonna have to be concerned about that. And, you know, I don't know, there's no easy way to do this. It's just no easy way.
You're right. There's no easy way. And it's just, this is a period of adjustment that as humans living in a community post this event, we're going to have to, this will be kind of an outdoor wake up call, enter at your own risk scenario. Because we are on the nexus of, do we have herd immunity? You know, do we, we're on the precipice. And I think that's why we're seeing, you know, the hopeful big numbers for these outdoor gatherings and stuff, is because maybe by then we might be through it, but who knows, everybody, you know, so I think we're just at the mercy of each other.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Chief?
don't disagree, but I will say that a lot of the problems traditionally that we have at our event aren't from our Monmouth Independence folks. It's from people that have come to visit us with ideals that bring them to independence on Independence Days. So I do foresee exactly what you guys are saying as issues that we should at least be on the same page for as we go forward. We have done other things like as park rules and enforce those, but we really don't want to be in the middle of that, because it will be much greater than anything else we've ever dealt with, right? It'll be like a 10% exclusion, and that we will not have the staffing for that. It just will not be.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to be new
Flag
signage
was gonna be
made.
rough.
What was that?
We will have to make sure that we have very clear rules about masks, as for, at least for the vendors and the volunteers and everything, because there was an issue last year with some of the folks saying that they didn't have to, even though they were part of the staffing at one of the block parties. So we need to make sure that it's very, very clear when it's required and if it's not.
Absolutely.
We've got signage. We've had signage in the park for years, and new signage is gonna have to be made, you know, masks are required.
Well, we'll have to make sure that all of anybody who's a volunteer or a vendor or has any sort of official connection with the event understands the rules and is given a copy of it. So
yeah. So I definitely worked signage into the budget. And, you know, it's a very fluid budget based on what our needs are tonight versus what we think some potential income could be. I've been given the directive to prepare what I think would be a reasonable budget. I have it outlined preliminarily, but I want to hold off obviously for numbers from Tino. And if, you know, in entertainment numbers, I've already heard from Kimber that these are hazardous times and there might be hazardous pay coming CERT's way. So we'll work I will work all of that out. I'll work with Tom on the finance side of things. But mask enforcement has definitely been my biggest unknown, you know. There's only so much I'm willing to do. And I think that is something that we're probably just going to pin and come back to. Something that, you know, we need to solidify as a group. That way we're all on the same page, but I'm not ready to tackle that and make a decision on that tonight.
Well, let's let that be part of the communications plan. You know,
absolutely.
The community, and this is what we need: your support, we need your buy-in. We need you to play nice with everybody. Otherwise, you know, for the entire community. So I'll start working on some verbiage, and we can bounce it around and see what we need to say.
Okay. I know that there has been, I've been told there's been a lot of chatter on Facebook. The community wants to know what we're doing, what we plan on doing. Is there going to be something happening? So I think I'd like to at least get some sort of a preliminary message out there that, things are in the works. Obviously, that's going to have to be put out there if we're going to do this big call for volunteers as well. So Shannon, can you kind of work on a small release, just short, sweet, more details to come, that we can start getting out into the community again, just like last year. I don't want to utilize our Independence Day's social media because that has a very, very global audience. And, this is going to be a tribute to our community.
Well, I mean, if we're going to use the city's social media, push this information out there, city's website. What about Monmouth? Do you want to include Monmouth communications plan? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Then probably Monday then to look at.
Mm-hmm.
If we had some kind of matrix in which kind of directed how many people we can have in the park based on how many volunteers we have, we could keep people engaged and or encouraged to volunteer, saying, hey, we've got this many volunteers, meaning that we can have this many people in the park. We need everybody to help out. All hands on deck.
I like that idea. That's a really good idea. That's a good way to engage the community. So.
Also, as added incentive, if volunteers get a pass to the event, if you want to guarantee that you get to go to the event, you better volunteer.
There you go.
You better be one of the lucky 50 if we go to extreme, like Tom said. And it's a private party with all 10 of us.
That's one heck of a fireworks viewing for 50 people.
Shannon, are you the volunteer person? Is that?
I'm going to include it in the communications plan, and I'll work with Karen on trying to pull together a group of people.
I've heard some concerns already about people who are very concerned about COVID because of whatever their personal reasons are, right? Their health issues or age or whatever. Is there a way to have safer positions and riskier positions so that we don't our volunteer?
I hear a fundraising opportunity. If you want a private viewing area, support the fireworks budget and I will rope it off for you.
That's a good point. I'll think about that.
So can we tell, I like Nathan's suggestion, can we tell our volunteers that they would be guaranteed a bracelet for entry?
Absolutely. I'd take it a step further and say, the volunteer and their family.
Okay.
How big's a family?
Well, I was just going to say, hold on here.
Well, so we can work. Yeah, we can work on those numbers. But yeah, I get what you're saying. The volunteer and
10 of your family members. Yeah.
I'm sure it was just volunteers.
Yeah.
Because we need
you
them.
can go watch and you have to
we
leave
need
your
them,
family.
exactly.
But,
Yeah.
We need them. We need the husband and the wife. We need the wife and the husband. I mean,
Yeah.
A pretty traditional thing in the music business at music festivals, or festivals in general, is you get a +1 if you are a staff volunteer, like about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a +1, maybe some special access to certain areas, but that's it.
Or you get one bracelet for every 4 hours you volunteer.
That's not bad. That's like an enlightened +1. Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. But how do we track that, or
I know, right? But I mean,
do we pay in advance? Do we have a bracelet volunteer that's constantly handing out bracelets on site?
We have dissolving bracelets. It's good for 4 hours. That's it.
All of a sudden, these bracelets are turning into the Ouroboros, like snake eating its tail. So
I'm having visions of Get Air when that hour cycle is up. If you have a purple bracelet, please exit the park.
And
Yellow
with
bracelets can stay.
no playlist, just oh my god.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm totally fine. Volunteers, if they're going to step up, and let's be, obviously reasonable.
Sure.
Totally
I'll
fine.
I'll visit with Shannon and come up with something and see what you think.
Okay. Gosh, we're really getting up there in time. So I want to make sure we talk about everything pressing before I let you guys go.
Are
Let me
your
pull up
bag
my
check-
list here.
Are your bag check expectations the same as previous years? And I asked that because of the close contact. And again, Kimber has contacted me and said she's a little concerned about how many cert people she'll get because of that. Having
Right.
made close contact, doing the bag checks and things like that.
I missed the very first part of what you said, Chief.
Asking if the bag checks are going to be in the same model as other years because of that close contact. And Kimber was voiced some concern about cert volunteers not wanting to be in that close contact repetitively all day on a shift, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was one of the things that Kimber and I have kind of chatted about is, what could CERT's involvement be? And so one of the things that kind of came to mind is I know that she has expressed to me that they've been pretty hands-off this past year. So what if we utilized CERT to do their roving like they traditionally do, and we use the private security to do back checks? Is that something that's feasible? I don't know what the conditions are.
Even CERT for, verifying people have wristbands, and then, Tino, you speak to this, but private security for bag checks. I don't know that we need them roving so much because they're going to end up in the middle of mask issues if they rove much.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's what these companies do. They staff these events and do back checks. I've seen our company at other locations doing exactly that. So.
Okay, so I'll let Kimber know that that's an option. We can kind of pull them away from bag checks there if that is a concern. Her biggest concern to me was not being able to staff it at full capacity like they normally do. One, it's awful late notice for her to get that deployment information out there, and also just the members that they have kind of chosen to be a little bit more hands-off. So we'll continue to kind of work through that and then probably, like I said, incorporate more private security there. Let's see. Let's talk about potential income. Obviously, this is going to be a unique event, and I do not expect to cover our expenses this year. It's okay. We're Nathan?
Non-fungible tokens. So we film it from the very front, just the whole thing with one camera, and sell it as a non-fungible token. And it's Independence, 4th of July, end of COVID. You own this unique camera shot of the whole thing for $1 million.
For $1 billion.
No, 1 million. Just $1 million.
I think, Janice, going back to what the chief was alluding to, some private that's for the family that hasn't been exposed and that is like in the middle of everything, and maybe that you see from the campground site, but
Can you mute? Shannon, can you go again? We couldn't hear anything you were saying.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe we can sell some special viewing sites and get some income on that. I mean, it's not going to be big. We're not going to make a ton of money this year anyway, and so anything we make is just going to defray some cost. But if we can carve out some space somewhere in the park, and I'm not familiar enough to know what the best viewing sites are, but maybe there are families out there that want to participate, but they don't want to be in the throngs of things, they don't want to be around the great unwashed, they want to be someplace safe. So maybe we can cordon off some special, viewing spaces.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. I mean, right now, anything's game, right? You have an idea, come up with it.
So Keith or Aaron, will the fireworks shows be the same both nights?
I haven't seen the contract, the show display yet. I would imagine the third's probably just a little bit smaller than the fourth.
Because I was thinking we could take Shannon's idea and sell it for both nights.
The
Specials.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. When I talked with Heather the last time, I was trying to get them to be pretty equal, make it easier on our crew also, versus the amount of mortars and such that had to be set up. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw, Portland is actually bringing back the Waterfront Blues Festival this year. And they actually are having, I'm trying to remember the verbiage they use, but basically quarantine corrals for people up to 6 family members in one area, or 6 or 8 in one area. And they were selling them as that. And from what they showed on their, on the news, was kind of a fenced off area for those people. And you can go 2, 4, 6, or 8 people, if I remember right, in that area, and you paid X number of dollars for that area.
I think I have mixed feelings on that. I like that idea, but I would hate to have a family that would want to come out, but would need to quarantine and maybe possibly couldn't afford that. I don't know. What do you guys all think? I mean, I know you guys know that I've always been passionate about keeping it affordable for families.
I like the idea, and I was thinking the same thing, Janice. I think a more equitable way to do that would be through a raffle, maybe to raffle off those areas, but that may take more work. But that way, folks that could otherwise maybe not afford it may have a chance, just like anybody else.
I think we need to take half of the hotel room sales for that 4th of July. Great revenue. Great revenue.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's only a joke, by the way.
I think that there needs to be a partnership forged there. I know that their concern was that we were pulling the fireworks from the park and taking them to the lagoon.
They still would have had a great view.
Not the same though, not the same experience.
I got the information from the Blues Festival in the chat thing. I like the idea of raffling that off, because I don't want to see a family that's hard on their luck not getting an opportunity to do that. So.
So other forms of revenue that we'll have, obviously ticket sales. So something that we need to address. In the past, wristbands have always been kept at $1, and our gate fee was bumped up to $2. But while I'm being told not to stress about the income, I need to make sure that we're financially responsible with our event as well. Do we kick it up to $2 or keep it $1? What are your guys' thoughts on that? If we limit it to 10,000 per event, potentially, that could generate 20,000 if we keep it at $1. So what are your guys' thoughts there?
I think since we didn't have an event last year, $2.
I think $2 is good.
Mm-hmm.
Both nights.
That's fair. I would encourage in especially in this year's strange situation, maybe a sliding scale. So you could pay between 2 and 5. That we have that model for like downloads on really hip music sites like Bandcamp and stuff. You can like pay in a certain range. So if you wanted to contribute extra just by buying your bracelet, you could.
Yeah, if the sales are going to be online, we can always say it's $2 a ticket. If you want to donate more, click on this, this link, and we'll take whatever you want to donate. And we can always put some messaging together that that says, look, we didn't have this last year. We don't have last year's income. We want to be perfectly poised for next year. here's how we're gonna do it.
We could always say, and if we exceed this certain budgetary goal of recoup, we'll donate the rest to, you know, local nonprofits or whatever these causes, you know, and list the causes. But often people will operate with a generous spirit, knowing that it's, you know, a pretty good deal for $2. Like, what else can you get for $2? You're gonna get to go see a bunch of live bands and a giant fireworks show in the middle of COVID for $2. Come on.
Who else thinks Nathan needs to work a gate on the 4th of July where you're trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
get $1 entrance fee?
Yeah.
I love that thought. However, let me tell you.
I haven't worked the door in a very long time, but it'll come right back to me. So I hope that my experience has gained me a different role, but if I have to do the door, I'll do it.
We'll call it your hazing hour.
I think, I don't know if it's feasible or not, but there's got to be some way that some sort of GoFundMe would be, you know, I don't know how, I don't even know where that to begin with, but a GoFundMe, we could potentially fund us for the next couple of years. If, you know, you never know. People feel generous. We do a GoFundMe and Elon Musk hits it. Boom, we got a fireworks show for the next 10 years, right? I mean, why not? You never know. It's a
10-inch shell.
Yeah, absolutely a 10-inch shell. Exactly. Yes, absolutely possible. You know, I've been blown away at GoFundMe's before. So
Idea of setting a goal, and if we surpass that goal, donating the proceeds, you know, maybe to the food bank, maybe to IDA, you know, so it can benefit the business community as well. To the utility fund, you know, there's lots of things that we can do to help the community with that money too. And it's all going to be about the messaging, because everybody cares about our business community. Everybody cares about their neighbor that can't pay their electric bill. Everybody cares about the food bank. So if we can just put the messaging together right for that page, you know, where we're going to sell these bracelets, I think Aaron's right. We could probably make enough money to carry us through a year or so.
I would love to see that happen. That would be phenomenal.
I think one thing that needs to be looked into is, you know, ethical boundaries as far as donations go, because even though, you know, we are running our own event here, it is still a line item of the city budget. And we have to make sure that, you know, financially, we don't do anything that would cause any hardship on the city. So Shannon, if that's something that you could look into as far as, you know, are we able to make that a goal, or do we find an organization to support?
So I was just thinking, maybe we have the $2 go to the, you know, go to a special fund for the city, and then the rest of the money go into another pocket of money, keeping it separate from the city's budget, because you're right, we're probably going to cross a line there if we're not careful. So maybe it can be IDA, and maybe IDA disperses the money, you know, maybe we can do it, because IDA's a nonprofit, right?
Right. IDA is a nonprofit. We're also working on a capital campaign to try to replace our ailing wreaths that go up every year that are kind of in sad shape. So that's something that, you know, we've got places that it could be utilized that would benefit the community.
Can you check with the board and find out if they can be a pass through to other organizations as well?
Okay, now we have been looking at the pass-through kind of thing, especially for grants, because that's put us in a different tax category last year. And so we've had to hire somebody to do our taxes, because that's kind of thrown us off. So we're pardon me?
Oh, I'm just wanting, sorry, before you get too far in this discussion, we need to remember that Independence Days is a city event. It's not an IDA event. It's not anybody else event. So any money generated is the city's money. We can't say it's going to be X number of dollars for the city and then the rest is going to go to IDA. So we need to be really cautious about what we're saying here now until we can find out exactly what is doable.
Maybe you're right, Karen, and maybe that's maybe we need to think about Aaron's suggestion about a GoFundMe. You know, maybe that's what we can do, and that can be entirely separate from what we're doing for the city.
And so
I'll
if,
talk
if,
to them about it.
if I understand it correctly, then Karen, based on what you were saying, if the GoFundMe meets its goal, then it would need to be shut down. It can't earn extra and donate.
No.
Or
They were talking about the bracelets, about just on the bracelet purchase, and the $2 is what it's going to be. And
my crazy
anybody
idea.
wanted to, and if anybody wanted to donate more, then yeah. So
That's my utopian society stuff kicking in. So strike that from the record.
We've had plenty of years where people just hand a 20 and say, "Hey, it's my wife and I, but here's a 20, keep it."
Yeah, for sure.
That's the beautiful small town communities.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
I'm not very worried, because if Tino gets all this private security and you have 2 fireworks shows, you're not going to earn more money than we spent. So we're going to spend the money. I'm pretty confident.
Yep, absolutely. I'm not concerned about raising too much. And I'm not really, to be honest with you guys, I'm not concerned about meeting our expenses, but I want to at least be financially responsible enough that we exhaust all of our efforts to at least, self-fund like we have in the past. But that's all stuff that can be taken care of outside of this meeting. I've already kept you guys wrapped up for 2 hours here. Some of these topics tonight, I've kind of made some notes on, and we'll revisit ones that still need to be handled. Primarily, I wanted to deal with the park and that's done. Deal with fireworks. There's a handle on that. The last thing that I really want to nail down tonight is Shannon, the campaign that you've been putting together. We need to get some sort of a release out there for the community to let them know that we are working on something. And then I think the sooner we can start getting information out to the community. How are you going on that information/safety campaign?
Now that we've made some decisions, because I really couldn't do anything until I made some decisions, I will shoot to get something to you Monday to look at. And if you approve it, then I'll work with Karen or whomever at the city to get it on the website and get it on social media.
Sounds good. I think maybe I'll reach out to the IO and have them, I don't know, that might expand our horizons a little more than we want to. So yeah, I'd really like to just keep this a little more local.
Janice, did you set a number of how many people? Was it 8,000 that you were going to cut it off at? You could start a little frenzy for, bracelet sales by making them more valuable by saying there's going to be less of them.
I have a feeling you're pushing for about, I don't know, 4,000 capacity.
That was Tino. I was being very generous at doubling his number.
Well, the thing about it is it's not just my decision, right? It's collectively, it's our decision. I will tell you guys, I want to cap out at 10,000. I don't think that that's going to be an issue. I don't think we're going to be turning people away at 10,000. So collectively it's a decision that everybody gets to chime in on and make that decision. So state your case and throw your number out there, a reasonable number.
I agree with the 8,000. I think that's a very comfortable park number. It's a hometown pride day, a good one most of the time. So I like that number.
I'm okay with awkward silence while y'all gather your thoughts and put your opinions out there.
So should we motion to accept the 8,000 capacity number?
I'm just saying, I haven't eaten dinner yet, so make a decision, guys.
8,000 sounds like a good number to me, but I'm not the expert, so.
8,000 is good with me.
We all know Bob's number. Tino's at
All
4.
right.
Tino thumbs upped it. I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but Tino
Yeah.
thumbs
I
it.
saw a lot of thumbs up there at 8,000. So we'll stick with that. So just so you guys know, there's been a lot, as silly as this sounds, there's been a lot of thought put into the pre-selling and what that's going to look like. So the plan, just to throw it out there, is anybody who is paid, anybody who is going to be 6 and older coming in, will have our traditional red, white, and blue, some sort of patriotic band. Children that are 5 and under, traditionally in the past, we never did anything with. I'm going to have a solid color, depending on, so Stacy has the wristbands, depending on what solid block of one color that she has available. Anybody 5 and under who is not paid, but we still have to maintain the count of, will have that solid color bracelet on them. We won't have to worry about the exit gate getting jammed up by people needing bracelets. They're going to have them when they come in. So it might be one of the sillier concepts, but there's been a lot of thought put into that whole process there. The next issue will be, and we can work on this outside of this meeting, it doesn't need to be tonight, but let's start thinking about, ways to get them out there. Vicki, if you can go back to your businesses and see if anybody wants to participate in having them for sale. We'll have to work out the logistics of it money-wise and all of that. But if you have any businesses that want to participate to drive that foot traffic into their store, absolutely let us know. Okay, anybody who needs money in the budget, Tino, Nathan, I think we'll slate you in at 3,000. Nathan, does that sound good for you?
When is our next meeting?
Next meeting is going to be in May, probably the 8th.
Okay, so about a month from now, I can move forward and see.
May 13th.
13th. Sorry, I was off by a week.
So probably what I'll try to do is operate with the idea of $1,500 for each day and try to grab a great headliner that can play for like close to 2 hours on each of those days, and then fill it in with local stuff, and then my massive patriotic 4th of July special playlist.
Perfect.
And then funny announcements and talent shows and local stuff, in those other, I guess, that's a lot of hours to fill. I'm gonna have to rack my brain, but we should bring in at those numbers, we should try to bring in a decent headliner each of those days that can rock for 2 hours. And if y'all have other opinions or want to give me some feedback, just get a hold of me and let me know. But I'll move forward with that and see how I do. I don't know what the demand is going to be, honestly, on local talent, as other cities have the same sort of governmental restrictions as we do for 4th of July, and bands are probably mostly out of practice right now. So
well, just don't make it so spectacular that the amphitheater gets jam-packed with people.
No, I'm gonna sleep on how I can make it go far, but thanks for giving me a finite number, and I'll move forward thinking about that. But y'all, if you have any suggestions in terms of what genre you think should be represented, like my inclination based on our demographics is to try to do some Latinx thing and Anglo thing on the same stage, at least in some sense.
Same stage, same time?
Not at the same time. Battle of the Bands is just a terrible idea in that context. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. We'll figure something out, I guess. Y'all, thank you for your time. It was good to get some information about it.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so if you guys have a budgetary need, get me that information in the next week so I can button this up and get it sent off to the city to look at and start kind of haggling with numbers there. Unless anybody else has anything pressing tonight, I think we have some good plans to move forward with. It's been a little over 2 hours, so it's been a long one for us tonight. So I'll cut you guys loose. Again, can't tell you guys enough. Just thank you for the time that you guys put into this. You know, took you guys away from your families for a couple hours tonight. There's a lot of decisions to be made, a lot of things to execute in a short amount of time. So focus on the positive. Let's have a good time and give the community something to look forward to this summer in a fun, peaceful, everybody gets along kind of way.
Thanks for the.
Before you leave, did you want to bring up vendor?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, charges for the vendors. Just wanted to throw it out there. It shouldn't take too long, but
yeah, nope. You're absolutely right. It's on my paper, but I quit looking at it a while ago because we keep getting off topic here. So bringing vendors into the park, Aaron and I kind of talked a little bit earlier, what that's going to look like, right? We're not going to obviously offer the big event that we would normally offer. So I don't feel right charging our normal vendor fees. We're not offering the same opportunity. I think that there needs to be some give there. So we need to decide whether we are going to temporarily lower our vendor fees this year for this event and make it a static fee, or Aaron had suggested maybe kind of working off of what the state fair does and just take 10% of their sales, capping out, of course, at a certain amount, of course, but that way, you know, if the crowd is light, then they're not going to be at risk of losing a lot of money, hopefully, but that's something that we need to kind of nail down. I did work up the vendor handbook. It is all switched over to 2021 event, and I did put in there that our vendor fees, whatever we decide that they're going to be, will be 100% refundable if the event gets canceled due to the state of where we're at. And I also incorporated a clause in there that should the event get canceled, that we will not be responsible for any financial losses from the event getting canceled. I think both of those aspects to cover were really important. And if anybody has any suggestions of what else needs to get covered as far as that goes, let me know. By all means, I don't write legal contracts for a reason, but those are the two things that really came to my mind, is protecting their money and then protecting us in the event of a cancellation. So right now our vendor fees are $250 for 10 by 10 space, $300 if they're a food vendor for 10 feet of space. So that's kind of our working point. I definitely do not feel comfortable charging our normal rates. So we either come up with a discounted fee, which, to be honest, I kind of, for the simplicity of it, I prefer a discounted rate versus having to deal with percentages of sales.
I want to go too, so I'll just throw something out. How about, how many days is it normally? 4?
3.
3, 4? Depends.
Yeah,
3.5.
Yeah.
They normally only want to be there for 2. We make them stay for the extras. So,
Yeah.
but 60%? I don't know. Does that seem fair?
60% of the normal fee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they got to make $100, right? Maybe. So.
Okay, I think that sounds reasonable. Anybody have any objection to that there?
Nope, no objection.
All right, sounds good. Vicky?
Nope.
Is the opportunity for local vendors to set up, if they choose, for free? You were talking about that as a possibility in the past. Is that something you're considering for this year? I don't know if anybody wants to, but so I have the correct message to take back?
So that concept was having one area where
An
the
area,
businesses,
okay,
yeah,
never
could come in. However, you know, as a commission, we do have the ability to, we do have some, and I would have to go back and revisit the bylaws and look at it, but as a commission, we do have the ability to waive fees
Okay,
for certain organizations such as local businesses, if as an organization, we choose to do so. So if it's, you know, something that's going to support a local business, that's definitely something that we could bring to the table and talk about and make a decision on.
I'll come back to you then if someone asks about that. Thank you.
All right, nobody else raises their hand. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you in a month. All right.
Selling your car isn't easy.